Hey Harmonizers! One of the things that a bunch of my instructors wanted to see over the weekend was playing with Liberty with two horses. So I ended up doing Fairly and Elysia's second ever Liberty session together, and I'm going to share with you guys some pieces from that. I was overall super impressed with the improvement from just one session and making sure that we left it on a good note the time before. So take a look at how much these girls have improved. All right, so this is me just taking the halters off of my horses here and just kind of getting started with them. So this time a little bit different, which is great, is I brought my horses in, and that's kind of cool that they were actually matching feet there for a second. But I decided to try to keep them together from the beginning and not let them think that it was run around, be crazy time like it was for their first Liberty session. That's pretty cool. They're matching feet again there for a bit. So I started off with just rewarding them for sticking with me from the beginning. I thought I'd start off by just testing out the Tarp, which is a pretty easy obstacle for both of them. So I wouldn't have gone to the Tarp if I thought that it could be difficult for them, because this being their second Liberty session together with each other, I wanted to set it up for success. So we do over the Tarp and then backing over the Tarp, and just trying to do kind of little easy-ish things for them. And the goal for this session is really to try to keep my girls together and with me the whole time, and leave it kind of short and engaging, so that way the horses hopefully finish the session thinking that they could do more. So you can see Elysia started to drift there and went to leave, but I was able to call her back with her sideways towards me cue. Like I blocked her with the chest first and then gave her the signal to come over. So that was really, really good. And I'm giving them rewards for being with me, but I'm not trying to hold a treat in front of them and be like, hey, follow the treat. I'm using my hand as a target for them to follow. And here Fairly started to drift out with her hip a little bit. So I'm asking her if she can bring her hip in towards me, using the sideways towards me cue, and then offering positive reinforcement for the horses. So just playing around with a few different skills here, asking for the sideways towards, which Fairly's kind of cute. She's trying to get forward and in front to get over closer to me. Elysia is doing it pretty nicely there. So it's a little tricky for them to understand how this works with another horse, and she's thinking that she needs to be close to me. And really in this session, I'm happy that they're wanting to engage with me, that they're understanding that I need to engage with both of them, and that we're starting to put a few little things together. And as they kind of realize what's going on and that they start to understand a little bit more, then we'll be able to experiment with more things. So here I'm trying to do a ground tie, and Elysia moved, so she didn't get her cookie. And then this time Fairly moved, so Fairly is not going to get the cookie. So we kind of played a little bit of a game of can you stand still? And it was a little bit tricky for them to figure this game out a little bit, and probably partially because when I go around the one horse, they can't necessarily see me all that well, so they found it a little bit confusing. So here Fairly did a pretty good job of standing still, but Elysia was backing up. And it can be a little bit confusing for them because we've also been working on backing up by a tail, so she might be thinking, let's back up. That's not necessarily Fairly's fault, because Elysia looked like she kind of pushed Fairly backwards. And I was trying to look for a moment where they could both stand still and not move. So Fairly got a treat there, but Elysia is going to get a correction, although she needs a connection. So there's a Freudian slip for you guys. And I just tried to make the corrections in a way that's kind of firm and clear, but not to the point of being scary. And that's what I love about using Liberty No Tools, is that it really makes you be a lot more aware of what the horses are ready for, a lot more aware about what kind of criticism that they can handle, and how you can help them learn. So you can see I ended up doing the ground tie super duper quickly to try to set it up for success, recognizing that they weren't ready for a super long ground tie, and then tried a little bit of the sideways again with them. And you can see Elysia sometimes does get distracted and thinks about drifting towards the outgate, but it's not hard for me to keep her with me. And this is using Liberty, no tools, in terms of like no neck ropes, no nothing. And you can see that there's quite a few people watching, so there's a lot of distractions. Pretty cool to watch this video after the fact and see just how much my girls are mirroring each other, matching feet. That's kind of interesting to see. A little bit of a backup cue there. And so far just doing things that are close to my horses, mostly because Elysia is still kind of showing a little bit of a tendency to sometimes drift off and leave a little bit. So easier to keep them close together with me so I can help them understand what it is that we're doing rather than sending out at further distances, which will kind of save for once things are working a little bit better. So here she's just being a little bit confused. I'm asking for the sideways towards. So I have to use patience to kind of wait for that. And again, just another one of the cool things about using Liberty no tools is I might have been tempted to rush them. That was pretty good there with both of them doing the sideways. But it forces you to be more patient because you can't be hauling on your horse or being whippy with your horse or things like that. You have to be able to work through things calmly and in a way that's going to still help the horses want to be with you. So I was playing around a little bit with what was working easier, having Fairly or Elysia on which side, like to do sideways towards. Looked like it was working better when I had Elysia on the far side of Fairly. She seemed to grasp that a little bit better than Fairly is grasping the concept of being on the further side from me. She finds it a little bit more difficulty. So not the end of the world. I just try to go in and clarify for what it is that I'm asking her to do. Elysia is doing that pretty nicely there. And Fairly's kind of like, but where'd you go? It's like, Fairly, you're supposed to bring your body over as well. And she's like, but what do you mean? Elysia's there. I'm like, you got to bring your body over. So I reward her for that. I'm trying to help her understand the answer to the request that I'm asking her to do. And Elysia's being a little cheeky there, pushing Fairly a little bit. You can see Elysia's got that sideways towards, and Fairly is not super good at taking direction from the other side of Elysia. She's not doing anything bad. I think she just doesn't get it quite yet. So that's why I try to help her by doing that cue a little bit closer to her. Of course, Elysia tries to get in on the snuggle action, but it's nice to see that I can switch my focus to Fairly for a minute, and Elysia isn't just piecing out and thinking like, okay, fine, you're not paying attention to me, then I'm going to leave. If you remember in the first video, if I paid attention to Fairly, Elysia was gone like right away. And so this is a much bigger change, a much better improvement as to how things are working in terms of mostly with Elysia grasping the concept that we're working together. So this is a little messy, but that's okay. They're figuring things out a little bit. They're understanding that I'm asking them both to do things at the same time. It's not perfectly parallel with each other, but I'm pretty happy with that and decided to end it on that note. My girls are super cute here following me as I head over to go back and get their halters and their lead rope. So I'm really happy with that. If you look at the difference from the first video to this one, we kept it short and sweet. And so that way, hopefully my girls are thinking, we could have done more of that. That was fun. And then we'll keep building on that until we can do Liberty at the Beach, which will be super fun at the end of the month. Thanks for watching, guys.